Hello everybody, welcome back to another video review. My name is Darren Walker and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Today we're looking at the UTL, Universal Trade Line, digital multimeter, the UTLDM2. Before we talk about the meter itself, a little bit of history. UTL was actually a Canadian company founded in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, back in 1946. And it has since branched out and joined other parent companies all over England, United States, what have you. But yeah, so a little bit of history on this guy. It was originally a Canadian manufacturer. Now this particular unit is not made in Canada. It's made in China. But that being said, we'll take a look and we'll see how it performs. Off the get-go, in the box, you get the multimeter itself. You get what looks like some pretty decent quality test leads. They're rated for 1000 volts, Cat 3. So now, one thing I noticed with these particular leads is if you take off that Cat rating safety cap, they've got a nice little screw tip here. So you can, if you have any accessories, inputs that have the threaded insert, you can utilize these at the same time. So that's kind of nice to see in something in this price range. And they are quite sharp. Nice pointy tip on the probe, which I like. So you don't have that needle nose look, but I mean, if you're circuit tracing a motherboard, checking some SMD components, what have you, yeah, these are going to be great leads for that. It's your typical sort of plasticky feel, but I must say they do feel fairly nice, so good job. Something you don't see as well in a meter in this price range is the thermocouple. This is a K-type thermocouple because this meter does do temperature as well, so this is included, which is a nice feature. Get the manual. It's one of these open spreadsheets. Pretty quick, basic, but really it tells you, all you need to know. It's not a service manual, what have you. So I think the bare facts are there, and it's quite sufficient. Speaking of specs, for a small meter, this thing has some pretty good specifications. As I mentioned previously, it is a 6000 count, 600 volt Cat 3. Has the auto off. It's supposed to be around 20 to 25 minutes. I think it's more like about 15 minutes, but that's neither here nor there. Have the diode testing feature, which goes from half a volt to 2.7 volts. And as I said, it does do temperature. And the nice thing about this meter is it has the temperature in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. So if you're in Canada or Europe, you're probably going to be using the Celsius. And if you're in the United States, some other parts of the world, it's nice to have that Fahrenheit. So you have both functionalities, and we'll look at those a little bit later. In terms of frequency, it does up to 10 megahertz, which should be sufficient for most people. And one thing that I really liked about this meter actually is the capacitance range. Most multimeters in the, let's just say, sub 50, even sub $100 range, only go up to, if you're lucky, 10 millifarad or 10,000 microfarad. This particular meter goes up to 60 millifarad. So 60,000 microfarad, which is really, really fantastic. So far in my time on the bench, I've probably never measured anything larger than perhaps a 20,000 millifarad or microfarad capacitor. I've come across quite a few 10,000, but I've never needed the 60 millifarad range. But you know what? Hey, if it's there, I'll take it. And it's great to have a meter that can actually go that high. Unfortunately, today the highest I have to test this will be a measly 2.2 millifarad or 2,200 microfarad capacitor. I was hoping to get a 10,000 and 20,000 in. Unfortunately, it hasn't arrived yet. So now we'll take a look. The unit itself, it's fairly small. Has a really nice feeling holster. Has a little bit of weight to it. I like the weight. You know, it doesn't feel cheap. It feels pretty rugged. Selector switch is nice. Has a really good tactile clickety-click. Now, as you notice, you do have that annoying beep. So you change the ranges and beep, 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 beep. And there's no way to turn this off, unfortunately. So that's a little annoying. Take out the battery. There's one simple screw to remove. It's one 9-volt. You have no fuse access though, so to get to the fuses, you'll have to disassemble the entire unit. So what we'll do, we're going to start off with some testing, and we'll see how the UTLDM2 does. So the first test today for the UTLDM2 is a voltage test. Voltage accuracy, that is. And we're going to use the 8584 voltage reference. It goes through 4 different cycles from 10 volts down to 2.5, up to 5.00, 7.500, and back to 10.000. Now, this being a 6,000 count multimeter, we don't have quite that range, but here we go. So we're at the 10.000 range with the 8584, and we're showing 9.96 volts. I'm hoping that's clear. I know there's a little bit of glare. I do apologize, but okay, so 9.96. Now we'll go down to the 2.50 range, and the M2 is showing us this 2.493. So we get more resolution now because we're lower voltage. Perfect would have been a 2.500, so we're off a few counts, but still well within spec. Going up to the 5.00 range, we're showing 4.991. So we're off by about 9 counts, but we're still within spec. Up to the 7.50 range, and we're showing 7.47. And finally, once again, back to the 10 volt range, showing us 9.96. So not bad, not bad. Not the super most accurate, but certainly well within spec, and for any hobbyist needs, what have you, this is no problem whatsoever. So good job, UTL. Next thing, we're going to measure a couple of capacitors. And as I mentioned before, this meter does a really, really good job in terms of range. And unfortunately today I do not have very high capacitor in terms of the value. The best I can find on the bench today was a measly 2,200 microfarad. But we'll give it a try and we'll see how fast that is. It's electrolytic cap, so as always, the line means negative. Okay, so we should be showing 2,200. Now, one nice thing about this meter is you can see that as it's ranging, we're getting a visual indicator. That little, let's call it a decimal point, is floating. So that's a good feature. I do like that. Rather than just sitting and looking at a dead screen or dead air, what have you, at least this way there's some sort of indicator that the meter's actually doing something. So there you go, 2.029 millifarad, so certainly within spec, and that didn't take too long either, so good to see. Now, the opposite side of the spectrum, we've got a tiny little, I believe this is a 0.1 microfarad. And we'll just see how this guy compares. And there you go. So 98.2, it's fluttering 98.5, 98.7 nanofarad, no, 99 nanofarad. Like I said, this is a 0.1 microfarad, so it's pretty... Okay, just to compare the UTL to the B-side in terms of the capacitance rating. B-side showing us is 88.14 nanofarad. And that is for that same capacitor. So in terms of capacitance, the UTLDM2 does the trick, and it'll do the trick for small caps and large ones. So if you do a lot of capacitor testing, yeah, I'd highly recommend this meter, at least to have it on the bench, because not a whole lot of meters, even in the more expensive price range, can have that kind of range. Alrighty, moving right along, we are going to look at temperature. Now right away, I will take out stock probes, and first thing you'll notice is you don't actually need the thermocouple. So if you were to plug it in, the range might change ever so slightly. I apologize, I'm just not getting in focus today for some reason. Okay, so with the thermocouple, we're showing up as 19 degrees Celsius. And yes, it does have a backlight. Didn't touch on that yet. It's not bad. I don't think it's quite as good as some other reviewers had mentioned. A little more awash to me. There is definite, say, some burning in on the right-hand side. But, I mean, generally speaking, it's nice. Fortunately, the light does turn off after about 10 seconds, which is a PIA. I don't know why the manufacturers just can't leave that to the discretion of the user, but anyway, at least it does come with a backlight. So we're showing it's 19 degrees with the K-type thermocouple attached, and if we remove that thermocouple, there you go, we have the same reading. So that's a handy feature. Once again, you hit the function switch, and now we're in Fahrenheit. So for my American friends, there you go, 67 degrees Fahrenheit. So cool, yeah, I really like that. I like having the dual Fahrenheit/Celsius functionality, and very nice. And it's also great not to have the thermocouple attached. Now you would use this, for instance, if you want to measure temperature in a liquid or heat, fire, that sort of thing. Then obviously you're going to plug this in, and that tip right here on the sensor, it's going to make a big difference. But for just general temperatures, what have you, ambient, yeah, you don't even have to plug it in. And just to give you a visual comparison, the UTLDM2 is slightly larger than the Aneng 8008. And it's definitely thicker. But it's still relatively small in terms of meter. Okay, I have it hooked up to a linear DC power supply. Take a look at the voltage comparison. So we're 2.6 volts, 2.8, 2.9, 3.1. So 5.0 volts, and showing this is 5.09 on the UTL. 9.5, 10. So the range speed seems to be pretty good, pretty accurate. There's no lagging or delay at all. 22 volts, 24, 25.5. 30.6, and we're pretty well maxed out. 31.7, and we're getting display of 31.69 on the DM2. So yeah, pretty good. That's fairly accurate. Good, good in terms of the auto ranging speed. Excellent. I believe the sampling rate is 3 times per second. So yeah, good job. Next up is continuity testing. There's the default leads. Like I said, they feel pretty good. The tips look really nice. So let's see how they are in terms of continuity. Wow, really, really good. Nice latched. Very, very quick. And I'm really putting next to nothing in terms of pressure on these leads. So yeah, 2 thumbs up for the continuity for the UTLDM2. Nice and loud. Quick to respond, very clean. I like it. And you know, continuity is one thing that's really important. If you ever do a troubleshooting and you're fixing, repairing laptops, what have you, it can save you a lot of time. And you know, the worst thing is to get stuck with a meter that sucks at continuity, because with a good meter, literally you can troubleshoot a board in half the time. And that doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money for a good meter. I'm just talking a good basic meter. And but a feature like continuity can make a world of difference. I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit here. So with a decent continuity feature in a multimeter, and like I said, you don't have to spend a lot of money. This UTL has a perfectly acceptable continuity rate. Take your probes, let's just hit the ground. And we'll just start a low-level test on this motherboard. This came out of an old Seagate backup, multi-unit backup storage drive. So for instance, I'm testing this PCB and I'm trying to locate a faulty component or components. And I'm going to start my troubleshooting by just testing for continuity. So for instance, I'm checking these capacitors. And as you can see, I'm just moving right along. And I'm able to move quickly because there's no lag with this meter. I don't have to worry about waiting for that signal to reach the meter. Looking at the coils. same thing. Some MOSFETs over here, same idea, IC. So when you have a decent continuity, it allows you to troubleshoot extensively and rapidly. So really important to have a meter. And some people, they have an affinity for non-latched. They prefer, I prefer the latched. I like a solid latching on my my meter. But they both work, and it's whatever works for you. But yeah, just a great idea to have a multimeter that is good at continuity. Okay, next up, we're going to take this puppy apart. I'm not going to bother looking at the duty cycle, although it does have that feature. I've used it before on a similar UTL, and I had no problems in terms of duty cycle, what have you. So it works well. One thing we will do quickly is I thought I had, do a quick diode test. All right, that's our forward voltage drop, 5.6 volts. No problem. Okay, so to get the battery, you have to take off, well, you don't have to take off the boot, I'm sorry. To open up the case, you have to take off the boot. The boot itself is, like I said, really nice soft rubber, and definite some protection going on here. You've got the 2 groove slots for your probes as well. Very nice. You can see it's a standard 9-volt battery. It's got the standard clip mechanism. We do have a threaded insert. Okay guys, here. We are taking a walk on the wild side. Well, not really, we're just looking inside this multimeter. Okay, so we've got 2 ceramic fuses. We got the big 10 amp over here. Now these aren't those massive HRCs, but hey, it's better than a glass fuse. Sand filled, and definitely much better than a typical glass fuse. Tiny little current shunt over here, and I don't like the way it's just nudging the middle input selector. Not selector, sorry, the input probe. Definitely prefer to see some distance here. Count them, 1, 2, 3 MOSFETs. I'm sorry, PTCs. And I mean, they're not the biggest, but they are at least there. So that's always good to see. What else do we have here? A couple of transistors, capacitors. We've got a diode array, more resistors. There's our buzzer, crystal oscillator up here. The fab date on this meter is 2014, August 16th, and I just got this about a month ago. So let's say January 2017. I've had another one of these units as well for a couple of years, but just goes to show you that, let's call it new old stock. If you do get one of these, chances are it's probably going to be at least a couple of years old. Not that that's a bad thing. So here we have the standard 9-volt battery feed that goes underneath. So not a whole lot going on. And I'll take a look at that IC. That is the DTM 0660L. Let's see if I can get some specs on that particular IC and put it down below. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this even further, and we'll see what's on the other side. If you take a look over here, though, you'll see that, yeah, that's right, no shielding. Can't they simply shield? Anyway, thumbs down for that. Okay, so we have it on the other side, and we'll start here on the right hand. You can see with the selector switch, it has the plastic gridded sort of inlay. This is actually similar to Keysight, some of their models as well. Not as thick plastic, mind you. Take a look there. It doesn't look like there's any grease on there whatsoever. But that's it. Pretty slim screen, the rubber for the selector knobs. Not selector knobs, I'm sorry, for the push buttons functions. Move over to the left-hand side. Well, there's our LCD display. There's the tracks, nice and clean. But no other input protection to speak of. I thought maybe there would have been a MOV or two, but no, it's sparse as sparse can be. If you look at the input, they're soldered on. Now the soldering itself actually looks to be pretty decent. I don't really have any complaints with that. So yeah, in terms of the actual quality of the soldering, it's fairly good. Very clean board, no flux residue. So there you have it. I'm going to put this puppy back together, and I'll come back with my closing thoughts. Okay, so closing thoughts on the UTLDM2 digital multimeter. I like it, I really do. And right now this is being sold for approximately, I've seen it go from literally $40, $45 Canadian up to perhaps 90 Canadian. So you're looking at around $30 US up to around 65. You know, I think it's a steal. If you could get it at the lower price range, grab one. I mean, it's a good little workhorse. It's well built. It's solid. Yeah, it has a few quirks, but you know what? Who doesn't? This meter pretty well does it all. It's fairly accurate, fairly fast, has a really good capacitance range, does dual temperature, has some pretty decent ceramic fuses. Okay, there's no big MOVs in there, what have you, but I mean, in terms of general overall electronics hobbyist use, yeah, this is a really good meter. So if you can find them, they're rather hard to find, but yeah, I'd say grab one. It's a really good deal. All in all, it's a very nice piece of kit, and I'm going to give the UTL DM2 4 out of 5 stars. I've got some LCR meters. I've got this Japanese Duo. I am running a bit behind with that, but stay tuned, it's coming up. And just lots and lots of meters and electronics reviews in the future. So if you like, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't, well, okay, thanks. And hey, any comments, questions? I love to help people. A lot of times I'm in the background sort of helping people out with their meters. If you have any questions, you need pictures, you need advice, what have you, that's what I'm here for. Till the next video review, keep on testing.